I mean, again, to talk about the coaching industry, like it's so easy to buy the 10, 20, $50,000 program. And literally for like 3 days, you're like, oh, I got the answer. Like it's good to go. And guess what? You still got to do all the work. People, we live in the era of the easy button. They want to buy the result. I realized like you can only put lipstick on a pig for so long before you just have to admit it's a pig with lipstick on it. Right. And the fact of the matter is that most people, they're interested in growing their business. They want to know what's the 5 steps for this or the 10-step framework for that. Well, guess what? If you don't have self-awareness, you ain't getting anywhere.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets, the podcast where we talk with successful career coaches on how they built their success and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is Davis Nguyen, and I'm the founder of Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to 7 and 8 figures without burning out. Before Purple Circle, I started and scaled several 7 and 8 figure career coaching businesses myself and consulted with 2 career coaching businesses that are now doing over $100 million each. Whether you're an established coach or just building your practice for the first time, you'll discover the secrets to elevating your coaching business.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Career Coaching Secrets podcast. I'm your host, Regen, and today's guest is James Pyle, a man who helps high-performing leaders strip away the noise, reset their identity, and reclaim their power through fasting, fire, and what he calls the Elevate method. From the outside, his clients have it all, the business, the money, the accolades, but deep down, many feel restless, disconnected, or stuck. James helps them break through the illusion of success by guiding them back to the truth of who they are through stillness, radical honesty, and identity resetting experiences. James doesn't just help men scale their business, he helps them scale themselves. He's the founder of Awareness Elevation, and it's a pleasure for me to have him on the podcast today. Welcome to the show, James.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure, James. So I wanted to ask you, it's been a while now that you started your coaching business. What inspired you to start it and become a coach yourself?
Yeah, so great question. I had probably a little bit different genesis story for this venture than most people. I started out as an entrepreneur basically all my life, but really formally when I was 21 years old. And I had scaled and exited a few companies successfully and also attempted to launch and crashed and burned a few companies in the mix. And in my early 30s, I was scaling a highly successful real estate investment company. And we had achieved a 10 million run rate within 18 months. And we were on track to be at a 20 to 30 million run rate by the end of the second year. Fortunately, unfortunately, I was heavily addicted to a lot of pills, different drugs that were prescription drugs, but weren't necessarily prescribed for me. And just kind of lost in the sauce of not knowing who I was in this world and what my real purpose was. And it actually all came to a big head and basically sent off the end of the infinitely tall cliff in the summer of 2017. And I lost everything. I literally lost everything. All my finances, my equity in the company. And I was basically at the lowest of lows. And I was standing in my bathroom mirror at the time. And I had my 45 automatic in my hand. And I was trying to figure out, how do I successfully end this? Because I just failed at everything else in my life. And so in the midst of complete failure all around me, I was looking for a way that I could be successful at ending this life. And I just couldn't do it. I was looking at my eyes in the mirror and just, teared up and had the loaded gun ready to go. And then I just heard the voice of God within me say, how could you end your life when you've never even known yourself? And that was the moment that I realized that I didn't love myself because I didn't like myself because I didn't even know myself. And so that was what I call my step 0 moment, which is self-awareness. And that was the foundation to then about 9 months later, I launched Awareness Elevation to be able to help coach entrepreneurs in restoring their identity to clearly know who they are, why they're here, and what to commit their life to.
And it's been about 7 years or so since then, right?
Correct.
Cool. And so what do you find, ever since you started your coaching journey, what is something that you find most rewarding since you started it?
Yeah, for me, the most rewarding component of coaching is having the honor to steward and witness other people through an amazing transformation journey. And quite frankly, when I got in the coaching space in 2018, started off with a really strong momentum and quickly realized that I couldn't scale beyond myself with the one-to-one model, right? Which is where, most coaches then begin exploring one-to-many and that sort of thing. And at the same time, for several years, I was challenged with the fact that the dark side of the coaching industry most people don't talk about is that the vast majority of clients don't actually achieve the results, right? And really the difference between a consultant and a coach, as most people know, is a consultant creates the deliverables. The coach just creates the framework and then is a guide, and it's all on the client. And I just never really resonated with creating information products to be selling to people to basically get them to buy something that they most likely would never use. And so throughout that process, it was like 2019, I started getting into fasting. And I started doing these 3-day fasts. And then in 2022, I got the word from above within, from the voice of God within me, to begin doing longer fasts and incorporate what's called the fasting prayer. And it was through that process in 2022, I did a 5-day water fast, and then a 7-day water fast, and then a 10-day water fast, and then a 12-day water fast. And that put me into a trajectory of realizing that my whole life, because of a difficult childhood growing up in a physically abusive, drug and alcohol fueled household, I was constantly looking outside of myself for the answer. And so much of this world, since the beginning of time, people are attacked in their identity. And they're attacked in their identity and taught a different identity that will conform to the patterns of the world. And it wasn't until I completely removed everything, including all food and supplements and everything, that I realized that the real solution is not adding anything. It's subtracting everything. And we live in such a hyper-consumerism culture and world and society, especially modern Western societies, where we're constantly taught to look outside of ourselves for the answer. And that even can be a dark rabbit hole with biohacking, because biohacking is all about, the next cold plunge or the next sauna or the next breath work or the next supplement or the next diet or the next exercise routine, which are all things outside of ourselves. And through that process, through that journey, it was, up and down how it can be in an entrepreneurial venture, which led me to the place where I realized that I really am called to steward this ancient healing technology of water only fasting. And so from that, I've had the pleasure and great fulfillment, back to your original question here, of what I enjoy most, of helping men to literally be like as lean as they were in high school in their 40s, and helping them to reconnect with their significant other and or their children in ways they had never experienced before, and to be more present and to clearly know who they truly are and what they've been created for, and then be fully committed to dedicating their life to fulfilling that purpose of their true identity. So really, it's just the wonderful opportunity to steward and witness the breakthroughs in others and hold that container in space.
So basically, it's not just changes in the mind, it's also changes in the body, taking care of yourself. And by the way, very impressive 12-day fasting, just like mentioned, or even like being able to get clients to go to being lean as in high school. I feel like when I think about it, that seems like impossible to me. So yeah, very impressive. And you talked a little bit about this. So you were working with founders. Is there a specific niche when it comes to founders, or you also might work with leaders that are not founders? How does like your target audience look like? And also just dive a little bit deeper within the transformation of them for anyone who's listening and is interested in learning more about your program.
Yeah, totally. So just to take a step back and provide a higher level overview of actually what awareness elevation is awareness elevation is the forward facing holding entity for my portfolio of consulting for equity businesses. And so what had happened is, through doing all the coaching that I did for several years, I realized that I really get my satisfaction from helping create the success in the end result. And also my career as a serial entrepreneur, every time I would build a venture and team it, it was constantly me projecting the vision and getting everybody else to buy into it. But if I wasn't there to cast that vision and be the driver of the vision, then things didn't always turn out the way that I had hoped. And so what I realized a few years ago is that I could actually develop a model to be able to bring to specifically startup entrepreneurs, is what I enjoy working with, and founders, and be able to help them achieve breakthroughs in a capacity that would allow me to significantly reduce my fees on the front end, because so many startups are so lean and usually they don't have a lot of cash flow to invest in what they really need, which is the ability to grow themselves before they're able to attract that next level of success. And so I was able to create a model where I can actually offer people all of the high-powered services and transformation that myself and my team can create at a significantly reduced amount up front. And so we get a small slice of the back end. We get a small slice of the pie. And what that also allowed me to do is I specialize in startup. Like the first 6 months of a new venture, I'm the guy who's just like, make sure the gas cans are full every day so I can take my chainsaw and saw down trees, you know? And when it comes to debarking the trees and milling the trees, I don't want anything to do with that. I just want to saw down trees. And so I realized that I could actually be much more effective and create a much bigger impact in the world by helping other entrepreneurs bring their vision to life and doing the component that I'm the best at, which is the startup game, and then be able to transition myself into just an advisor role and be able to continue to provide guidance for them as well as benefit long term by creating that win-win relationship of that back end revenue share. One of the things you would ask was about like, if I coach other leaders. I do some private coaching with healthcare leaders and high-level physicians because that's one of my companies that I'm involved in. And I also have done some one-on-one and group coaching for fasting with women. However, I currently just focus on male startup founders because number one, men and masculinity has been severely under attack. And most men do not even know what it really means to be a man. A man's number one role in life is to provide safety and security. And so much of the world is so detached from that reality. I truly believe that in order for a man to be a man, he must be capable of extreme violence and choose peace, because otherwise he's not choosing peace. He's just incapable of anything other than peace. And, Jordan Peterson proliferated a lot of that line of thinking around things. And so with the framework, what I then developed is I realized early on that through lowering my fees to get a slice of the back end, I'm really taking a gamble on these clients that I'm working with because I don't have a working history with them. And so in order to mitigate that, what I developed is a process, a series of water-only fasts. That's my forward-facing client acquisition mechanism that then once people have gone through a certain number of fasts of a certain length, they can then qualify for my consulting for equity services to be able to open up my network, open up my team and my resources to be able to help them accelerate their vision and timeline for what they're up to. So when talking about the transformation process and the ideal client, it's that stripping away of everything and is getting into that quiet space and becoming aware of what are the behaviors that we exhibit that no longer serve us best. What are potential patterns that need to be shifted to become that greater version of self that the higher level of success is attracted to? And I really set it up to be a mechanism as when people get to the place where I'm ready to have a conversation with them about consulting for equity engagements, I want to know that this person can do at least a 7 or a 10-day water only fast, because someone who can do that can achieve pretty much anything. And one of the greatest realizations that I had and that others have, and I share with everybody because everybody wants to ask me, what's fasting like? James, in January of 2025, you did a 22-day water only fast. What was that like? And what I share with them is that what would you do if you woke up one day and realized that you had been lied to about everything for your entire life? Because once we go 7 or 10 days, it really starts at 3 days. Once you go 3 days, 5 days, 7 days, 10 days without food, and we've been taught, especially here in America, you have to have 3 meals a day. You have to drink 8 glasses of 8 ounces of water every single day. You have to consume. Once you pull out that programming and awareness of, do I really need to actually eat this much? Why do I eat this much? What am I eating? What is it made of? Who taught me to eat this stuff? Who taught me to eat that much of it? How is it impacting my overall health and well-being? And one of the most interesting things to me is that an entrepreneur's greatest asset, as well as greatest weapon, is our mind. And it's really funny because I see so many people who purport these, candid phrases and such that these canned responses of health is wealth. And the fact of the matter is people say that, but most people continually take withdrawals against their health and borrow against it and never pay it back. And so this process allows people to not only restore themselves, restore their identity. It helps to reset their gut health, which gut health is the foundation of brain health. And through that process, they become more in tune with their body and what it needs. And people see energy levels soar, like we talked about earlier, weight comes off like never before, sorenesses, injuries get healed, all kinds of stuff. I mean, so I did that 22-day water fast in January this year. I just went to the eye doctor like 2 weeks ago. And I jokingly said, because it was one of my intentions when I did the 22-day water fast, I've worn contacts since I was in like 8th grade. I was like, I'm going to heal my eyes. And I was like minus 3.0 in my right eye and like minus 2.0 in my left eye. And I sat down and I told the eye doctor, I said, hey, I bet you my prescription is going to be less strong this year because I healed my eyes during my 22-day fast. And she kind of giggled and she like didn't know what I was talking about. And lo and behold, each eye, my right eye was minus 2.5 and my left eye was minus 1.5. So I actually healed my vision by a half of a score in each eye just through one round with the intention to do that during that round. And it's really, really powerful in that transformation process when people become self-actualized and they realize that we are all self-authorized from above within, that then they can actually enjoy the liberation and freedom to live their life in their calling. Because again, when people don't know who they are, they have no idea why they're here or what to commit their life to. And if you don't know who you truly are, the world will definitely try to convince you of who they want you to be. And it's that process of continual removal and awareness, elevation of awareness within ourselves to be able to then know who we must become to attract that next layer of success. And that's really the foundational component of the transformation process. And I know this may be a little long-winded answer. I just want to wax deep with you here for a moment and riff on where I believe the coaching industry is going, because that's something you had mentioned earlier is, charting the trends in coaching industries. Here's my prediction, and this comes from a good friend and mentor and coach of mine. I believe in the next 12 months, coaches are, for the most part, going to become obsolete in terms of providing frameworks. The advancement of AI and technology, there's pretty much already not a framework out there that you can't get a hold of. And in terms of coaches thinking that they have some proprietary framework, it's going to become less and less relevant. And anybody who works with very high level people on, 6 and 7 figure engagements, none of those clients ever want frameworks. None of those clients ever come to coaching calls asking for frameworks. They come to coaching calls to access frequencies. They come to coaching calls to be able to be tethered to that voice of truth and reason that helps to remind them of who they truly are so that they can remember why they're really here and what to do with their life. And so that's my prediction for the future. I actually truly believe it's going to become a big vacuum in the space, and that the thing that becomes the biggest commodity is actually that one-on-one human interaction. Because again, people are already so disconnected and isolated from the last 5 years and all the craziness going on around the world. It's only going to continue down that path with the evolution of technology. And there will be some people who, they got their AI coach and they love it, and they got their AI robot girlfriend and they love it, and that works for them. But people who are really awakened and aware and know that they have a heart beating in their chest, they crave that human connection and that human community. And so that's really at the core of this framework, and why I feel so blessed and maybe lucky to have been given this assignment when I was created, that I get to steward this ancient technology. Because guess what? Ain't no AI can fast for you. You can learn all of everything you want about fasting with AI, but you still got to not eat. The machine cannot do the fasting for you. Yeah.
From what I've learned through these interviews of like listening to coaches and seeing where this is going, is one of the things that AI is not able to do yet, maybe in the future might, is that for now, for example, with your coaching business, you have access to many people who have gone through your program and you've seen results for these people. So you also have advanced your coaching programs through the experiences of the people who have worked with you, which AI will just like go into old data, might not know what's working like right now, but you actually have real data of people who are actually getting these results. So that is also an advantage of like knowing what's working. And the other thing is that, again, that one-on-one human interaction that is not possible to replace, I think, by AI, at least as of yet. Maybe in the future it will advance to a point that it will be like an actual entity. I don't know, but yeah, still is not going to replace humans, I think, anytime soon. But I actually like so many thoughts as you were explaining that. And like when you were talking about fasting and like the benefits of it, and how this actually is the first step to getting, and then the business actually is the next step. That is actually a very, very impressive, like in a way, qualification method for people to like to get to work with you business wise and have access to that experience. And I'm also passionate about fasting, especially I don't do it that often, but I just really like to often get into the benefit of ketosis and just like get there for a certain period and then just go back to my normal patterns. But yeah, really a big fan of that. So wanted to ask you, like, you have a lot of experience building businesses. So this is a question that will come easy to you when it comes to how people find you or where you find people in order to like what marketing channel is working well for you right now.
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I'm actually going to preface the answer to that question with a quick statement of I appreciate and enjoy using AI. And I see it the way that, when calculators came out and, the abacus got put aside, right? And then computers came out and that was the latest technology. And even if we go back to, I think it was whenever it was like the 1500s when the printing press was invented. It's like if you were an author then and the printing press came out, you're going to get smoked by somebody who has a crappy book, but they use the printing press to make 1,000 copies of it when you're doing it by hand, right? So there's definitely a positive application to AI, but it can't actually create anything. It's not a creator. It's a replicator, but it's not a creator, right? And so to preface the question about the marketing channels that's working best for me, I think one of the biggest illusions that people get caught up in building a business, there's only three things happening in every business. There's the job, which is like if you're a coach, the job is the coaching sessions. It's the thing that you would do for the rest of your life for free because you just love it and you're passionate so much about it. There's the business, and really the only thing that includes the business is the moment when we take payment from a client. That anything else is not the business. It's just that transaction moment when the money changes hands. And then that pays for us to do the job, number one, right? And the third thing is the busy. And too many people get caught up in the job and the busy, and they're totally confused on what the business actually is. And the business is determined by what I call marketing and sales clock minutes. Okay? Because if we were to look at it like martial arts, somebody might think like, oh, if you've been training Muay Thai or Jiu-Jitsu for 5 years, you should be at a certain level of efficacy. Well, that doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter the calendar time that you've done something. What matters is the amount of time that you've actually been in the gym training for. Because somebody who's only trained for 2 years but trains for 5 hours a day, 5 or 6 days a week, and you train 1 to 2 days a week for 5 years, that person at 2 years is going to smoke you because they have more clock minutes of doing that, right? And so for me, the greatest leverage that I have for generating clients and client acquisition is my reputation. I believe our reputation is the most important factor in business and we should protect it at all costs. I also, because of my reputation, have a lot of relationships and I am a relationship focused servant leader. So just like with what we're doing here, leveraging other people's audiences, serving others through providing access to high level wisdom tools and high level guidance for free in order to leverage other people's audiences. So podcasting, doing JV email marketing campaigns, speaking on stages, of course, digital marketing, organic content creation, and all of the retargeting that happens with that. And then I'm actually later today meeting with a good friend of mine who does very high level data driven programmatic marketing to be able to market omni-channel to people, including on what people might be kind of surprised by this, but literally for pennies on a dollar, you can get on over-the-top TV, you can get billboards, you can get in print media, you can get all access to these things because there are ad exchanges and channels that basically have a surplus of ad inventory at the end of the month, and they'd rather sell it for pennies on the dollar than not sell it at all. And so that's something that I'm really pressing into that we're going to be experimenting with over the next 90 days that then I'm looking at actually launching another consulting for equity venture to stand up an agency to do that for my other companies and then other clients as well. So really it has to do with reputation. And in this age of AI, I believe that it has to do even more so with our own frequency and emotional signature that we bring to the content we create, the podcast we record, the stages that we speak on. And if we take a step back for a moment and we look at the word signature, the word signature is sign of nature. So everything that humans do and create, there is an emotional signature, sign of nature, imprint in that thing, right? And not to go off on a full woo-woo rabbit hole here with you about manifestation and all that kinds of stuff. That's really at the core of it. So it's knowing sales and marketing clock minutes. It's developing and installing the systems that are going to continually provide those predictable, scalable results 24/7, 365, whether you feel like showing up to work or not. And then it's also leveraging our reputation and other people's audiences to be able to spread the word and be able to reach more people with that message.
I really love that answer because like anything you do in marketing, if your reputation is down, is not really going to work. Like if someone is just Googling your name and the next suggestion on Google says James Pyle scam, then nobody's really gonna like try and
ripoffreport.com.
Yeah. So
right?
yeah, definitely.
Ripoffreport.com. People can easily see, bang, you're no good.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's just like, it doesn't matter how many channels you are and how much audience you have at that point, people are not going to want to work with you. And maybe like not the people you would want to work with you would actually work with you. So yeah, absolutely. And yeah, wanted to ask you, like, you did mention also like something you want to work on, but in terms of like goals for your coaching business, how do they look like? What's coming next for you in the next 1 to 3 years? Call it like a short to midterm goals.
Yeah. So right now I've been doing my fast as actually a monthly event every month, and I'm shifting that to be a quarterly event. And then to this point, all of the fasts have been done virtually. And so the next evolution for me and part of my big vision is I'm going to begin hosting live fasting masterminds where the people, my clients come in and we all get together and we're able to basically hot seat and workshop and think tank everybody's business with this group of amazing people that are fasting. And to talk a little woo for a moment here, when we create a coherence field where there are multiple signal receivers and senders known as the humans, thinking about and projecting that energy out into the ether to pull that result into the third dimensional reality we're living in. And when we combine that coherence field with the mechanism of fasting and igniting that supernatural power within, and you get a group of people doing that, it's literally indescribable the type of things that can happen. Like one of the things that led me into this a few years ago was I got a hold of a book that talked about people doing these fasts back in the 40s and 50s. And like maybe a group of like 20 or 50 men would get together and do a 40-day fast. And then like 3,000 miles away, there'd be like 1,000 people that experienced like spontaneous healing from all these ailments, because that was what the intention of the group that was fasting was. And so part of the challenge in there, and again, I know I'm jumping around a little bit, it will all tie together here. So many of us, going back to the point earlier about being taught to look outside ourselves for answers, we have cosmic Google. Cosmic Google is you close your eyes and you sit still and you go deep within and you can get the answers. Nikola Tesla, the great inventor, everything he invented, he accessed in a theta brainwave state, and he literally saw the idea and then he would come up out of the meditation and he would create it. And I truly believe that there is no thought that anyone can think that's impossible to create. If we can think the thought as a human being, it can be created. And so really, in that vein of us knowing that, hey, we've all been trained to look at this cell phone or to go on Google or to go on YouTube and look for an answer to something, when really the answers are within. But most people have no idea how to hear that voice or to hear those promptings because we become so distracted, right? And the ultimate currency of transformation is attention. It's why things that are so polarizing like religion and politics and government and all of this news media is constantly being bombarded at us, because the powers that be know that the greatest currency of transformation is the attention of the human being. And so when we can raise awareness of that and be able to know who we clearly are, we can then build a life that's in accordance to the patterns that flow with our natural frequencies, our natural state. Because especially in the entrepreneurial realm, especially in the startup founder realm, a lot of people, they're starting a business because they have a big vision. But most people, because they've been attacked in their identity around finances, they're doing it from a deficit. They're doing it from insufficiency and they're doing it from insecurity. And if we go into a simple math formula, you input insufficiency and insecurity, it's going to equal insufficiency and insecurity on the other side. And the only way to truly create what we're really desiring to, we have to be able to create from a place of total contentness and sufficiency. Man, I'm doing really good at forgetting your original question as I go on my long-winded answers here. So bring me back on track.
I really like when we do this though. I like when we go deep.
Yeah.
I often like want to interrupt you and like ask you a follow-up question because there's so many thoughts that trigger when you're talking.
Yeah.
So now I even forgot what I wanted to do as a follow-up question, but as I was thinking, so you want to do kind of like retreats.
Yeah. So back on track with the live retreats, right? I had this vision put on my heart a few years ago to create this as a program that would lead to these live retreat experiences. And the proof in the pudding is look how much money people pay to go sit in a room with Joe Dispenza and meditate. Like they literally pay money to go and sit still and be quiet. And I just thought it was kind of cool that I have this business model where people are going to pay money to come and be with me and not eat. I think that's really cool. So, the goal for that is to be able to create this community that's around the globe that understands the power of this technology. And we haven't even really gone into like all the health benefits of it and the fact that 1 7-day water only fast will reduce all-cause lifetime mortality by 70%. So there's so much proliferation of the big scary C word in this world that, may or may not flag you, so I won't drop it here, but it's the word that ends that starts with can but ends with sir. The way that we can insulate ourselves from health stuff is through water only fasting. I mean, I just turned 42 months ago. I've not had medical insurance for 18 years. Been to the doctor a handful of times because I needed to go to urgent care because something happened, right? I'm able to survive with no checkups and my cholesterol levels being checked and all that stuff. So yeah, turning this into a live event and being able to scale it to eventually I'll have a portfolio of several hundred companies that I'm involved in a consulting for equity, advising for equity capacity, and having the pleasure of stewarding the leaders who are building leaders to lead now and in the future.
And it's so interesting that I was thinking like, okay, so you get these leaders, these entrepreneurs to come on a retreat. You can like even think of different themes, like you can get them on a mountain or something like, since you don't have to really eat, there's different things you can think about, you can be creative about it. So wanted to ask you, in terms of investments, you do seem like over the years of doing many businesses, obviously you have had many investments. In your coaching business, what have been like good investments that actually helped you grow the business?
Yeah. So first and foremost, investing in myself. Right. And not just to sound like, the typical answer that people say, like the best investment you can make is in yourself. I really believe that the highest form of self-love is self-investment. And so it's first of all, investing in myself. And then I'm also a bit different than others because a lot of people want to talk about, passive income investments and lifestyle investing and businesses you can buy and flip. You know what I love investing in? I love investing in people. I love pouring out my heart and soul into the lives of others who then will go on to build these ventures that will become passive income for not just me, as legacy projects for generations to come. So I believe in investing in the people that are then building the things that are creating all of those cash flow mechanisms. So those are the two most important things that I invest in: myself and my team internally, my teams externally, and my clients. And really, that's where I believe that most people could invest not just money, time and attention, right? Because it's easy. I mean, again, to talk about the coaching industry, like it's so easy to buy the $10, $20, $50,000 program. And literally for like 3 days, you're like, oh, I got the answer. Like it's good to go. And guess what? You still got to do all the work, right? And we live in the era of the easy button. They want to buy the result, right? And the fact of the matter is, and what you had mentioned earlier and where I progressed to in my coaching journey is that I realized like you can only put lipstick on a pig for so long before you just have to admit it's a pig with lipstick on it, right? And the fact of the matter is that most people, they're interested in growing their business. They want to know what's the 5 steps for this or the 10-step framework for that. Well, guess what? If you don't have self-awareness, you ain't getting anywhere. Because just like with the GPS, it asks you 2 questions when you open up any GPS. Look at that. Look at the balloons. That's cool. Where are you going? I did that. I guess I did that with the peace sign. That was cool. It asks you 2 questions. Where are you going? And then the second question is, where are you starting? I'm in Austin, Texas. If I want to drive to Los Angeles, but I put that I'm in New York, I'm going to get highly inaccurate directions on how to get there from Austin. And this is what most people don't realize. And that's why I call self-awareness step 0, is that until we have true self-awareness, we can't go anywhere. We can't do any program because we don't even know where we're starting at. And that is a perishable skill set, just like self-discipline, just like focus and concentration. If we stop practicing self-awareness, we will atrophy. And the other challenge is that I spent years figuring out, how do you coach self-awareness? Because there's nothing I can tell you about you that you don't know about yourself way better than I ever will. So how do you coach self-awareness? And I got this riddle. How do you explain to people the game they are losing that they don't even know they're playing? How do you explain to people the game they are losing that they don't even know they're playing? It's only one way. It's holding up a mirror. It's holding up a mirror for self-assessment, self-discovery, and self-reflection. So yeah, that's at the heart of it right there.
Yeah, and since we're talking about self-awareness, which is key, especially when it comes to like even shifting your identity or getting to like an identity that you were meant to be, I want to talk about challenges that right now you're working through in your coaching business. What is something that like is a challenge for you that you're trying to solve for next?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, to give the common answer, my biggest challenge is staying out of my own way. However, something that I have been really practicing, and it's part of the reason we've ended up on this conversation today, is there's a book called The Surrender Experiment. You may or may not have heard of. And it's actually written by a guy who realized that he was living a misaligned life because he wasn't actually living the identity he was created in. And he learned that he could just surrender all and that everything would work itself out as long as whatever he found himself doing, he did that task or that work as though his life depended on it, basically, right? And so my biggest challenge currently in my business is I used to wake up and meditate on what I was going to do for the day and pre-pave my day and steward the vision and do all these things. And now I'm in this place where I just remind myself to just be present in the moment and surrender. And whatever the grand creator of all wants to create in and through me, then that's what I'll do for that day. And it can be a challenge because there's the pull of the world and the pull of the flesh that wants to grab something and take control of it and run with it. And literally just in the last 3 weeks, I have had amazing opportunities come forth to me from clients that I've been working with and that have been fasting in my programs who are now ready to take that next step and step into exploring becoming partners in a consulting for equity, advising for equity capacity. And so really it was just that challenge of reminding myself and continually keeping that front of mind to just surrender and go where I'm being called for the day. And I always just believe that the creator will bring the people to me that I'm meant to impact and that the words will just flow out of my mouth. I don't even have to worry about it. All I have to do is turn up and look the part and the rest is history. So probably a bit different than a challenge that you hear from most entrepreneurs of what their biggest challenge is. So
yeah, thank you. Well, thank you so much again for everything. I feel like there's been so much value in this podcast. And I was just thinking so many shorts that are going to be able to do from this. So I really appreciate you. Is there any final advice you'd like to give to other coaches who are trying to scale their impact?
Sure. I would just encourage people to really, really open themselves up to the possibilities that can happen when we explore these ancient technologies that our ancestors used. And, whether that's fasting, whether that's an extended period of solitude, whether that's a long journey somewhere. Those are the 3 things that pretty much all men did throughout history is they went on long journeys, experienced a lot of solitude, and they fasted because they didn't have access to the things we do in this world. So I would just love to encourage coaches to really, really get clear on why are they coaching? What is it that they really feel that they're being called to do? And I would also love to encourage people, especially in a marketing capacity, identifying their ideal client, to really spend time in the exact language that their ideal perfect client uses to describe their problems. It's something that I've really been practicing more throughout the last year of my life is learning how to speak to my prospects about their problems better than they speak to them about themselves. And when we do that, guess what? Testimonials are less relevant. Whatever stages you've spoken on or podcasts you've been on or media you've been featured in is less relevant. What happens is at a subconscious level develops deep trust and rapport with others because they think, oh my gosh, this person is literally speaking to me about my problems better than I speak about them to myself. They must know the answer. And so just in the coaching realm, I would love to encourage coaches to be aware of who they are and why they're here and what they're really committed to doing in this life. And also be aware of what I believe the transition is going with the use of AI and technology, that your clients are going to be wanting to access you for your frequencies and your ability to help them remember who they really are and keep them on track with that. So think less frameworks and think more about your own evolution and progression and growth as a coach and who you need to become to attract that next level of success that those clients that you desire to work with are going to be attracted to.
Thank you. Thank you so much, James. For anyone who wants to find you or connect with you, they can find you on LinkedIn, James Pyle, or they can also go into awarenesselevation.com, which is your website. Is there any other way that people can find you or reach out to you to contact you?
Yeah. So the team is just firing up a whole Instagram and Meta campaign. And we're about to really go hard in the paint there and on YouTube. So you can find me at James, F as in Fox, Pyle. So at James F. Pyle on Instagram. And then you can find us at Awareness Elevation on YouTube as well. Those would be the best places.
Thank you. Thank you so much, James.
That's it for this episode of Career Coaching Secrets. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe to YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this episode to catch future episodes. This conversation was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to 7 and 8 figures without burning out. To learn more about Purple Circle, our community, and how we can help you grow your business, visit joinpurplecircle.com.